What is going on, everybody? I'm back today to talk about a new released Netflix original movie that as soon as I saw the premise and the trailer for this, I'm like, didn't this movie come out last year? Because there was a time travel slasher movie released on Prime Video called Totally Killer, starring Kiernan Shipka, which if you watched my review for that, I despised that movie. I thought the performances were terrible, the humor was super cringy, didn't really feel like a slasher movie because there wasn't really any tension and the mask was terrible. And I hated that movie so much. And so I saw this and was like, why are we doing this again? But after doing some research, come to find out, this movie was in production prior to Totally Killer. So if anyone ripped anything off from someone, Totally Killer ripped off from that movie. The masks are like eerily similar. It looks almost like the exact same thing. I saw this time travel was going to go back to 2003. So aesthetically, I was like, I'll watch this anyway because it sounds like it could be entertaining. And the movie I'm going to be discussing with you today is Time Cut. Time Cut is directed by Hannah MacPherson. A teen in 2024 accidentally time travels to 2003, days before a mass killer murders her sister. Can she change the past without destroying the future? So I was excited to watch this movie because of time traveling back to 2003. I was a teenager in 2003, so like that's a very nostalgic period in time for me. And this movie sucked. I honestly, I did not like it. I think it's better than Totally Killer. I actually liked some of the relationships between the characters, and I thought the way they built emotion in certain moments worked a lot better than anything that movie was going for. But the logic of this movie makes absolutely no sense. It doesn't really feel like a slasher movie because there's not really any tension. It's kind of just like lighthearted dialogue, and then you get into a moment where someone's being chased with a guy with a knife. But the way the cinematographer works and the way that it's lit, there's just no dramatic tension. You just don't really care. And I found myself fading in and out of this movie so many times. And I'm going to talk about the whole movie when I break it down for you today. So at the beginning of the film, we are introduced to Lucy, who it is 2024. She's going to high school and she's incredibly intelligent. She's doing well in school. We see her talking to her science teacher early on, and she actually is going to be accepted into an internship program to go to NASA. But we find out early on that she had a sister who was murdered when the sister was in high school in 2003, before Lucy could ever meet her sister. And it has weighed on her parents' conscience forever. They can't wipe it from their memory. They're always very down and sad about it. And it makes Lucy's life pretty difficult. And it's coming up on the anniversary of her death, and they go to the site which she was murdered, and she hears something in the distance. She doesn't know what's going on, and she walks into this barn area, and there's all of this like heavy equipment and machinery there, and she presses something on it and it turns on, and these lasers come out and they hit her, and it's these lights flicker and everything, and she opens her eyes and she's in that barn. But when she comes out, the barn around her is very clean comparatively to how it looked before. The town, like there's restaurants in the town that are operating that aren't normally in operation. She's seeing all these things, and she quickly finds out she has been teleported to 2003 and her sister is still alive. And she realizes, I have the opportunity to stop these murders from ever occurring. And the entirety of the film is Lucy teaming up with one of the guys from the high school to try to stop her sister and the other students that were murdered from being killed. So like I said, I did not like this movie. I think it is better than Totally Killer, but that's not saying much. I'll start with some of the positives. I don't think the performances are bad. I think all the actors and actresses here do their best with the material that they are given. The chemistry, especially between the sisters, I thought was really nice, and they do a good job with a lot of the emotional beats in the movie, which I think is important. If you're going to make a movie with heavy subject matter about someone being murdered and trying to like rescue them from being murdered, you have to make sure that the emotional beats work well. And I think this movie does do a really nice job with that. It's competently shot for the most part. It doesn't look terrible, but there's something about these Netflix original movies. They all feel kind of the same in their presentation. There's something like non-cinematic about the way a lot of these movies look, which sort of bugs me. I don't know if it's just the cameras that they shoot on or what it is, but like for the most part, it's fine. It's not anything really that glaring. That's really the only positives that I have for this movie. For starters, it, the tone of this movie is really weird. They try to make it very sentimental. They try to add comedy in moments, and then they're like, "Hey, guess what? It's also a horror movie." But the horror doesn't feel like it's incorporated naturally enough for this to feel like a horror film as a whole, because it just doesn't. It feels like a drama with a couple of horror sequences thrown in, and none of them work. I never felt any tension or danger for any of these characters because of how much of it is very premeditated. And it's just like someone pops out around a corner and runs away from someone. That's it. There's really nothing else to it. And a lot of the kills in this are cutaway kills, so it just kind of takes away from any real like gruesome moments. And that's I feel like that's the case with a lot of these gimmicky movies. I feel like the best example of one of these like gimmicky time travel movies that worked really well was Happy Death Day, because it had a gimmick of the day repeating over and over and over again, but they also weren't afraid to show kills. They weren't afraid to showcase how gruesome and grueling this situation is. And this movie, it feels like the stakes are so incredibly low. Like they try in the dialogue to be like, we could alter time, we can do this, but none of it feels like it sticks the landing in any way, which makes the movie feel kind of inconsequential, which the whole point of this movie is to try to make you feel something. And if the movie's just going to feel inconsequential, then it's like, what's the point of it even being made? The third act and the way that this movie wraps up is some of the most laughable garbage I've ever seen. Like, it is the most nonsensical when it comes to time traveling. These guys are just like, we're gonna do whatever we want, and it doesn't really matter. And it's such a dumb ending, and I cannot express that enough. It is just so stupid, the direction that they take it. It's very hokey, which is fine. I don't care that you end in like a hokey way, but like just when it comes to the time travel, the reveal of who the killer is, it's all kind of lame, upsettingly enough, because I think this is a cool premise if executed well. And the other issue I have with this is it doesn't really feel like 2003. The styles of clothes that people are wearing, there's like two or three musical choices that fit the era, but you're not showing enough of the diversity of the time period. It's like there was so much going on in 2003 with music that was popular and different styles of clothing and all of these things. And it feels like you focused on a very narrow element of what 2003 was like. And this is just one of those movies you watch once and you'll never think about it again. There's just nothing worth coming back to it for. There's nothing about it that makes it special in any way, shape, or form. And that's disappointing because I thought that it had some potential, but unfortunately, I just really didn't like it. So have you seen Time Cut? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was terrible. I really did not like it at all, and I have no desire to watch it again. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.